Hello, everyone. It's Virginia Warren here again, lawyer and conflict alchemist and co-founder of Lawyers for Love. And this is our love and law show. We are meeting beautiful lawyers from around the world, bringing their version of love into legal practice. Now, Lawyers for Love, we're doing this. We're an organisation that saw that there was too much fear in the legal system. And we said we really can't put a Band-Aid on that system. Many people have tried, and with beautiful modalities, we are moving to an alternate platform because we say we should really be going in the opposite direction to the direction we've been going in. Today, I am so excited to meet Hass Sadeghi. I hope I got that right for you, Hass. And he is an attorney based in Los Angeles, California, which is, I've been there once and it's a beautiful place on the planet. Absolutely adore it. It reminds me a little bit of Australia because I've seen the eucalypts there, and it's got a similar sort of climate some time of the year. I imagine you're in the winter now, and I'm heading into my summer, and I'm in the north of Australia, so it's more humid here. But Hass, he provides clients with conscious legal strategies to help them meet their business objectives. So I love this idea of consciousness. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Hass empowers strategic executive initiatives through aligned legal infrastructure, leveraging legal insider knowledge for sustainable business growth and prosperity. Like the oracles of ancient times, which were sources of guidance and wisdom for those seeking answers and clarity, Lawyoracle, which is Hass's firm, brings today's conscious business founders and visionaries holistic executive legal strategies to secure their business growth and success. Holistic executive legal strategies. I love that. Also, he facilitates conscious agreements for transformation and alternatives to litigation, bringing healing during legal distress. One of my favorite things to talk about. I love the idea that lawyers can be healers. In addition to all these offerings, Hass has chosen to train legal ADR professionals, that's alternate dispute resolution for those of you that don't know, about self-care and using the law as a tool for healing and creating a space for transformative contracts, equipping them with the wisdom, resources, and techniques to use the law and mediation as a force for healing, transformation, and empowerment in the world. He brings light to the law by elevating it as a tool for healing and transformation. And we'll talk more about the offerings that he has and the trainings toward the end of the interview. So welcome, Hass. It's fantastic to be here with you. And I just think this is a marvelous time on the planet because more of us now get the opportunity to speak to people around the world and realize that the borders are really, it's not, you're over there and I'm here. And the way we see Lawyers for Love see love particularly as borderless. There is no border on it. There's no framework around it. And we should be able to see how we're connected and loving equally. So this is just so awesome. So tell me, what attracted you to practice law, and how has your practice changed during your career, if at all?
Yeah, thank you, Virginia, for this platform, for the introduction. I got to truncate my introduction. It's like my prototypical of us attorneys. It's a mouthful, very verbose. For me, definitely there's been an evolution, to use that word loosely. It's interesting. So I'd like to start kind of at the top, the essence of our craft, the essence of why we do what we do. For me, I grew up in a household where I had two older brothers that were physicians. So I always gravitated towards problem solving and healing. I was studying to be a physician, and then I gravitated towards law. And for me, saying that law has an opportunity to heal or transform is an understatement. It's nothing new. I know some of the other contemporaries in the movement, the integrative law movement being one of them. So there's two quotes that I oftentimes cite to people. One of them is from, I believe, a law scholar, Stephen Kiva, which is law is one of the great healing professions. While medicine heals the body and the clergy heals the soul, the law heals societal rifts. And then the second, a little bit more of a noted being, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Warren Burger, I believe this was one of the justices from the 50s or 60s, I'm bad with history, said said something along the lines of the entire legal profession, lawyers, judges, law teachers, have become so mesmerized with the stimulation of the courtroom contest that we tend to forget that we ought to be healers, healers of conflicts. Should lawyers not be healers? Healers, not warriors? Healers, not procurers? Healers, not hired guns? Which, I mean, I can go on and on. There's the Lincoln quote, which I also love, Abraham Lincoln, which is discourage litigation whenever possible. So for me, the reason I start there a little bit, kind of the origin, because for me, the etymology, the origin, the essence of things matters. That, when we talk about consciousness, Virginia, for me, it's where's my awareness? And certainly when I went into law, I had my own grandiose notions of, I studied international business law. So I brought this science background and thought, much to my dismay early on, because you highlighted the system is broken. It's been broken for a while. Had some contemporaries talk about this. And oftentimes when I talk about the essence, I've been lately really fascinated with where the law originated from. We talk about Hammurabi, we can go all the way back to the Magna Carta and some of the others. The law has been eroded over time. It was a divine thing, to say that word loosely. I know some in the audience may look at me and go, wait, we're talking now about divinity in the law? I mean, love in the law is a stretch. And what I mean by that is it was from an inspired place. It was a social construct. And so when I got into the law of Virginia, to answer your question directly, I wanted to problem solve. I wanted to help in the capacity that I thought we could as lawyers. And early on, I found myself very frustrated and very much in dismay because I myself was a victim, because we can go on and on. The law school process builds us, conditions us in a certain way. The culture conditions us. In addition to that, we have our own innate biases to boot. So I came in and I was a little green behind the ears. I was very young when I got licensed, and I jumped headfirst into everything other than family law and criminal law, and I had a master's in dispute resolution. So I came at it from a very integrative, holistic approach to begin with. And then over time, I realized the consumers didn't want it, which is why I love what you're doing. Because I feel that we have to kind of attack maybe too aggressive of a word. We have to approach it from every angle. The judges, this law is of the essence clause that you're promulgating is brilliant, because more and more judges need to see these clauses. More and more of the adjudicators need to see us pushing the envelope, then show the possibilities to other practitioners. That this is a way shower. I was an early adopter with J. Kim Wright, Linda Alvarez, a lot of people who were much wiser. Now I have the gray hairs to match. I was in my early 20s when I met some of these very esteemed people, and they were planting these beacons for us that now you and I are carrying this proverbial baton. And then lastly, the consumers.
Yeah.
Clients didn't know any better. They would come to me, I want you to win for me. And it's like, win for you. Okay. And I have a very Taoist perspective, because for me, consciousness, again, is an awareness. Is what is my intentionality? What is the essence? So when I went into it with the intention of healing and problem solving, I became frustrated because I found I was sticking myself into the machine. I was a cog in a machine. So halfway through my career, I took a step back, did some branding, and then I literally branded it business prenups, business divorces, and started to play around in the sandbox and started to tread into some kooky water. I have an eldest sibling who has a love button movement. I would wear love buttons into court. So I was bringing law into, love into law. And I realized very quickly that I myself needed a reboot, because we need to start from within. So I was quick to point a finger. Three were pointing back, as my mom always says. And I realized that I had to do something from within. So I took the bold move to come out of the proverbial closet with more of my holistic spiritual modalities. I became known not only for the branding of these qualitative, the clients are high maintenance, Hass. We know you can, emotionally charge. Basically what you're saying is you're not equipped to deal with these qualitative issues. Therefore, you're going to bias, judge, label, and send them to me. So quickly I realized that the market share was going to move there, and that's where the practice only I was a very early adopter. We're talking 2010, 2012. I'm talking about integrative law, and again, a lot of others have been trying to do this in the business space. That's the kicker here. Because justice, criminal justice, family law, everybody talks about the woo-woo, the spiritual. So I digress. I can go on and on. I know you asked one question and I went off 50 different things.
Look, you and I are the same, because I'm like, oh, I want to talk about that, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about that, because it's such a big subject, but it's a small subject all at the same time.
Yeah.
And that the beautiful thing here is, the lovers of the essence clause, because this is what is right that you're saying the most is that the public need to demand lawyers that are more loving.
Yes.
We can't change the system. The people in the system, they're going to supply what's demanded.
Correct.
So when we educate people, and my thing with lovers of the essence is that the documents in our society are underpinned with fear. The documents are me versus you in a contract even. If you do something wrong, I'm going to punish you. And they're bringing you into a structure rather than letting us flow, because we're naturally flowing beings. So it's just all upside down completely. And our legislation, we have penalty units, all the words are penalty, fear. And as you say, it has a vibration. Your love button there is sensational. I must get myself one of those.
Lovebutton.org. Lovebutton.org. Gratuitous plug for my siblings, nonprofit.
Lovebutton.org. I'm just writing that down because I love that. Lovebutton.org. And that if we infuse just that word, the vibration, now people might think that's woo-woo, but it's not. This is science now, everyone. Physics is showing us that words, thoughts, all those things have vibration, and you will attract more of what you're giving out. And we can get into a very deep conversation about all that. But today's conversation is about bringing more love into legal practice and showing people that, look, we can do it a different way. You don't have to go, as Hass says, to a lawyer, hand your problem over on a plate, here, say, win for me, fix it, because that's not the answer for society. What we need you to do is take your problem back and have a look at what is in it for you. Where's the opportunity for you as a human to grow for yourself? It's got nothing to do with the rest of the planet, your reaction to society. But these are a little bit different paths in how we can bring more love into the world. And so you're saying healing, your modalities are bringing healing. And tell me about that.
Yeah. So real quick, so one thing that you said, well, a few things that you said. One of them, primarily, I like to go into the quantum, to go into the science, to go into the spiritual is one thing, and keeping it even more basic than that on a qualitative, at a relational dynamics level. Linda Alvarez, who wrote, I think it's Discovering Agreements, she really, I guess you could say, formalized conscious contracts and put I think the ABA published that book, and very dear soul sister. And I was lucky and fortunate enough to be in a retreat with her when she was developing the book. And then we stayed in touch during the development of it. And for me, what I really loved, and I spoke about this once at an HR event, that the document, and you know this really well, it encapsulates the energy. It's really a piece of paper that transposes the energy of the dynamic into these four corners, as lawyers like to talk about it. And because of that, and because I'm a fan of personal responsibility, both as a practitioner as well as a client, we talk about consumers, that it's upon us to not be egoic, because it's a power trip to have that much. I mean, I was handling multi-million-dollar disputes in my early 20s, and I didn't understand the sanctity of it. I mean, I not that I took it lightly, it didn't dawn on me. Right. I didn't have that egoic orientation and that type A vanity. I was type A in a different way. So my point is, as a practitioner, it's hard, right, when we're looked up upon, like the Godfather, to say, wait a second, I have a responsibility here. You're an equal participant in this, whether it be transactional or dispute litigation. And then as a consumer, right, in turn, a lot, which will dovetail to the question. So whether it was transactional or whether it was dispute depended on the word we're talking about. If it was transactional, then it would be transformative, and I can explain in a moment. And if it was dispute, it was healing. Because as really makes common sense, you don't need a law degree. if you've got a legal conflict, odds are it's not a black and white thing. Why? By very definition, whether you're in a civil law system or a common law system, if it's black and white, you would have a determination. The problem with most, again, business specifically, and I think family law, because I believe the very little I know about your story is, you went through the family law experience yourself. So that's a whole nother, I mean, we could have a whole episode about that, because as a referring out person, it was a toxic industry to touch. I'm talking business law alone, where you would think, right, that high stakes, multi-million dollar disputes or founders going into a conscious for purpose business, they would have the wherewithal to say, oh, we need to be proactive. We need to have a foundation of trust and goodwill and touchstones that encapsulate our values, what makes Hass tick, what makes the other founders tick. So healing. So, well, let's go the other way around. Let's turn it on its head. Transformation is when you have a transaction. As a lawyer, I have the opportunity to sculpt, right? And I oftentimes wanted to leverage the law, and I still do, for conscious businesses, for purpose, social enterprise, people that want to make a collective impact and being able to be proactive. So transformative, what I mean by that is thinking outside of the box. Because if they come to me and they go, I want a licensing agreement. Okay, well, why? What's the essence? What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish? There's more creativity than we realize. And then one step above, which is what you highlighted, is the transformation piece, is allowing them to transform their bond, where they don't even need, the longevity is there. That's my secret sauce, is that I'm talking about the proverbial elephants in the room, front loading, as I call it, all the, the beta testing, the troubleshooting, what if he cheats and does this, or what if he sleeps with your wife? All sorts of arbitrary, if it comes to me downloaded, inspired, why? Because those are like Linda, those are the problems. That's why you transform the opportunity. And then on the healing side, again, like I alluded to, I was known, and it was a testament. Denton's International, one of the world's largest law firms. I was on sabbatical. They referred me a case because I was known through the proverbial grapevine as, this is the guy, if you're in, because it's jurisdictional, as you know, California, and you got this contentious, clients won't budge, we don't know what to do with the dispute. Why? Why was that healing? Well, because again, it's not black and white. The problem was oftentimes their relationship to the issue, not the issue itself. So it was this cluster F, because lawyers love the F word, at least I do. I'll censor myself for your audience. Yeah, I'm being PG. I know this is our first rodeo, so I'm being a good boy. So it's this notion of healing is, what's the undertone? So now let's bring in energy. So if you have overarching this, the legal conflict that you're trying to shove into the legal system, like Play-Doh into a machine, a cookie cutter machine, well, okay, what's going on underneath? There's relational dynamics. There may be emotional charges tied to those. Sometimes I would deal with karma. This is related to my deceased grandfather, which is this video series I started to do under my relational alchemy, which is more of the transformative team stuff. Because a lot of the experiences that I'm drawing from, these novels, were during my legal tenure, where, for instance, the person comes to you, and so you got to look undertones. I call it the undertones of the conflict. And that's where real healing happens, because I've had the most amazing results where it's not a monetary conclusion. Like, you want to sue for medical malpractice? Great. They settled for under the reporting cap to the medical boards, over a hug, over a joint session in mediation, clarifying a miscommunication that ran deep. And this is a high profile dispute that involved a Hollywood producer. So, and he was as baffled as I was. I mean, what do you do when you're sitting down at a consult, you're getting up and the client goes, I was outed by my psychiatrist, blah, blah, blah. And I see dead people. As a lawyer, you could say, okay, this guy's nuts, and dismiss. Or you could sit back down because you've already signed the retainer if you're me, and I'm looking at him going, okay, I've already gotten paid. I don't need you. And this is the point. I'm an anomaly. I care. And it went back to why I got into this craft and why, even with all my pivots, now I still stay active as a practitioner because I've developed the model. I saw where we were going. And I really look at it as an opportunity for all of us. And that's really where I wanted to take this, is you are really presenting a beautiful platform as an opportunity both for consumers and practitioners alike to see there's another way, I didn't have to sit back down with this particular client that I'm in an inspired way sharing. I sat back down. I said, tell me more about that. Because as I say, it doesn't matter if the beliefs are real. It matters if they're real for the participant, for the disputant, because that's their paradigm. That's their schemata. That's their freaking reality as far as their observer is concerned. So why wouldn't I sit there? And in fact, that would be malpractice, maybe not ethically, maybe not technically. That would be what I would call an integrity malpractice, because I can do more. Doesn't mean I have to push myself or undercut my charging. No, it means sometimes it pays to go the road less traveled, as Scott Peck says. Sometimes it pays to do the Abraham Lincoln thing.
And that's it. The situation is, the way I see it, is everybody wants to be heard and welcome. So when you have a dispute, as you just discussed, often people are, because everybody's truth is true for them. If we have this win-lose model, it can't work, because I'm going to win for you, my other party, you're acting for the other side, I'm going to win for you. How can both parties win in a win-lose model? In the zero-sum game, it doesn't work that way. So your truth is your truth. Your truth is your truth. And you want to be heard about that, because you want to ultimately you need to self-validate, not have the other person or the lawyer validate you. And this is exactly what you're saying. It's like, if these people can sit in a space and be heard for a start, that is just, I exist, I am here. Because in the legal system, it's also shown you're not even heard in that system at all.
It's a big problem. And so two things, and this is reminding me of something you said earlier, because I'm a jurisprudence geek. So for those that aren't lawyers, or even lawyers are, what's jurisprudence, or forgotten? It's the philosophy of law. In university, or uni as they call it in the more European countries, and Australia, I believe too. Okay. I did different studies, and one of them was philosophy of law. And I remember that originally the law wasn't designed to be deterrent. And now we have sociological and psychological research that shows that deterrence in the jurisprudence system, the basis of law, you call it fear, it's a punitive system. It's meant, whether it be criminal or otherwise, its entire premise, again, distorted from the divine law, the law of light, as I call it, the actual law that we then promulgated tons of different human laws that then deviated man-made constructs, which undermine, right? They undermine, and then they perpetuate an ecosystem of punishment, of deterrence, which don't work. See, that's the real sad part. We don't even have to go. This is the one rare audience I don't have to talk about spirituality. I want to, and we are, where I can go, let's look at that raw sociological data. So yes. My program was actually law and society, and then I dovetailed on philosophy of law. So it was literally looking at the law from the sociological lens. So that's the first thing. And then the other thing, which I totally forgot right now because I went back in time. So let me go forward in time. Because you said, where were we? Refresh my memory, Virginia, because you said...
We were talking about perspective and truth and win-lose models.
That's right. So the keeping apart. Okay, so this is now not only a mediation thing, this is the way the system is designed. So now we have this deterrent origin of the system, which we think is going to work, is becoming more and more, you add more and more punishment. Then you keep the freaking parties apart. Oh yeah, that's a freaking genius move. That's a genius move, law. Like they need to talk directly at some point. And that case I alluded to with the medical malpractice, the mediator, which I barely got the opposing side to agree to, they didn't want a transformative mediator, which what's that? I said, can we do facilitative? And I mean, you can look at Len Riskin, who's a buddy of mine, his famous mediation grid of facilitative, evaluative, transform. Well, I want a retired judge that, has experience with this type of subject matter and, sat on the bench and has adjudicated these. Okay. Can we put our clients in the same room? No, I don't think we should do that. I literally had to it took an hour and a half in downtown Los Angeles. I'm sitting there. That's not on my dime. I get paid to be here, lady. And I'm looking at her going to the judge going, okay, and the opposing counsel doesn't want to do joint session. I get that. Why don't you want to do joint session? Because not only do we have a promulgated system premised on fear and deterrence, we have a bunch of scared sheeple that are conditioned to conform and not ever, because we've indoctrinated ourselves to be like, I'll get sued. If this goes awry. So instead, you have attrition in the law because people are unhappy because whether they're empaths or not, to be human, right? If you prick me, do I not bleed? You have dissatisfied is an understatement. We're the butt end of jokes and more. I say I'm a lawyer. It doesn't get me a date. It gets me maybe a date from somebody who's very materialistic, because it doesn't espouse love. It doesn't, because we're afraid. And that goes into this more woo-woo concept of we have to choose a master. You can only attune to one frequency. Our cells can either be open or closed, as Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about it, at a biological level.
Yeah. Well, this is what we're saying at Lawyoracle, actually help lawyers create a definition around love, because of course we know the idea, the L word in law is just doesn't exist. Yes, we would love someone to litigate on love. That'd be hilarious. But we've given it a definition to say it's a state of being without fear, which operates for the highest good of all in each moment. Full stop. So there's a few components to that. So you are being, you are now, and you can't have fear because you're either in love or fear, one or the other. If you have any negative feeling in your body, and this is what happens when we come into a courtroom or are in a dispute, there's all these emotions, and they're ripe for why are they here? It's showing me rules I've created, basically. This is what we talk about. And then, so it's drop those fears. And when you drop into love, and you're looking at the highest good of all. Now, that mightn't be the popular opinion. Go into a boardroom, drop all the fear people. That's when creation happens. You know, it is the vulnerability, but what people don't realize is fears are rules that you've created for yourself, but because they belong to somebody else. Those rules belong to your parents, your tribe, your ancestors, et cetera, et cetera. You are not bringing your authentic being into this world. You're not your authentic self. And when you're not your authentic self, you're not coming to this planet delivering what you need to deliver. So that is detrimental to me and you and everybody else. If you're not here showing up as you, I'm missing out. So stop being someone else. So when you're dropping the rules, you are then in love. You can make the choices for the highest good of all in that moment. So that's something for lawyers to get their head around, as a definition of what that looks like. But yeah, you can't sort of go in and start fight. You know, collaborative law goes some way to helping that. Restorative justice goes some ways. I see even different ways to that. But, you know, this is what I love of these discussions, that we're opening this up. Is like, what do you see as is this? What can we do? What can we do? And you're stating what I see as the obvious, but gee, it's not the obvious out there, because the ego mind is all powerful. If you take away my lawyer label, or you take away these rules, I won't know who I am. I studied hard to get this prestige and all these things. You'll take it off me. I don't want that. But actually, you'll feel a lot better. You'll feel like yourself. Yeah.
That's what we're really talking about. I mean, and to ground this in more practicum, for me, you know, in the business context, there's equally for executives, you know, I don't want to bring the lawyer in, the budget's going to be too high, right? They're going to lawyer it to death. So it's creating a safe space. It doesn't have to be love per se. It's creating a safe space for them to look at their legal infrastructure. Where are the risks? Where have you not looked at in your, you know, legal architecture? You know, where have you not been proactive? Why be reactive? You know, and this hasn't cost savings and an ROI, because, you know, you flounder and then you get entrenched in litigation or a legal conflict, or, you know, then you have to stop everything, because whether it be an employment dispute, whether it be an IP dispute, whether it be a co-founder dispute, whether it be a vendor dispute, they have impacts on the business performance and then the sustainability. So to ground it in the practicum, it goes all the way. And that's why I do the training piece, because I want still to have that ability to show practitioners, whether they be mediators or other legal professionals, this is how you take care of yourself. This is self-care. This is the ways. And from my experience, here's case studies, and training them. Here's the modalities. Here's different ways you can do it. There's a lot of other people doing similar things. You know, there's a gal, I believe, Ali Katz in Colorado. You may have met her, because I know you're on, you know, you're branching out, so to speak. And
we haven't actually met yet, but I've heard what she does, yes, from a couple of people, which is fabulous.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
She's taking it in the estate planning arena, for example,
yeah,
and it's cultivated a new model. So it's not like, Haas and Virginia are the only beings. It's more of forming an alliance and a united front as I see it, right? I'm more about the co-creative spirit and showing that it's safe, showing the practitioners, as you alluded to very astutely, Virginia, that you can let go of this veneer. You won't be sued for malpractice. You will make more money. Your performance, you won't need a Charlotte Smith, God bless all these other beings that are doing coaching for lawyers who are burned out. You won't need that. I mean, yes, go there if you need somebody like that. There's so much to this. And that's why we could sit here forever. It's multidimensional. It affects your performance, affects your fulfillment. It affects your attrition of clients.
the society, it's affecting the society, and there is a ripple effect for everything. And as you were saying before, it's all relationship, everything, whether it's family law, which cuts to the core, or in business, that's all relational. And every conflict that comes your way is your opportunity to have a look at your life. Don't hand it over to someone else and say, here, mum, you take my problem, put a Band-Aid on it, I can't do it. Don't. Just start being your own parent. And this is where lawyers can facilitate. Hold the space. This is a grounded way of looking at it, 100%. That's what we are here to do for these people. And when people say, gee, you can come to a lawyer and get a healing, it is the best news ever, isn't it? Yeah, because this is what people say to me. Oh, what are you doing that for? Why don't people, that's what psychologists do. And I say, well, that'd be good if people went to a psychologist first, but they don't. It becomes a legal problem first.
So the collaborative model is one aspect of it. There are ethical requirements, obviously, the licensure and making sure you're a licensed practitioner, et cetera. What I will say is this: is that whether you want to call it healing or not, it is cathartic. It is more of a holistic approach of looking at it from a humanistic level that then translates to greater ease going through the process, to greater satisfaction going through the process. So it doesn't even have to be encapsulated as healing per se. Now, that is one of the things that if you do go into it with that mindset, that catharsis can extend further to actual healing, feeling wholeness, having a transformation occur during the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're all bringing it in different ways. And some of us are bringing it in, helping people elevate their creativity. It just is, there's so many beautiful lawyers out there. And this is why Lawyers for Love are doing this program, because we just want to say, look, everyone, it's happening. There are people out there, go to these lawyers, make the demands for these lawyers. It is because the lawyers, when I had my family law matter, the lawyers involved weren't really interested in any of the clients, me particularly. They were interested in their shareholders and making money, and it was really obvious to a lawyer what was going on the other side, and it was sad. It made me very sad to see everyone's being played here, and it was awful business. And I thought, wow, that's not sustainable, people. Let's expose that type of behavior, because if people are going to a lawyer and wanting value for their money, ask that question. What's the value for my money? Yeah, lawyers are going to charge you money. That's what we do. We've been educated. We are doing this, but there are more humane ways to deal with humans.
So we are wrong. Lawyers do have love for money. So maybe what we're really talking about is transposing the love that lawyers have for the money for the love of the law and the love of the practice and love in the practice. So, and it's out there. I was toying with a model, and I'm still waiting for, the proverbial collective to catch up with I forget what I called it, or I was teasing, the beta testing what the market would like it to be called. So I first negotiation counsel or settlement counsel. And then of course, because that's the Michael Clayton, the ABA, there is an actual settlement counsel role that's been around in big corporate setting. Then I toyed with it and I went negotiation counsel. And then really what I've been dealing with recently and toying with, and I've kind of shelved the idea the last couple of years as I've pivoted elsewhere, is having almost like a care counsel role, so to speak, is where you co-counsel and the lawyer, because I've had actual lawyers approach me and they said, hey, I'm a litigator, I'm a warrior, I can't look weak negotiating. So I've heard you've devised a business model where I can work as your co-counsel and you do the touchy-feely, so I don't lose my positioning, which is a very real point when you're dealing with business disputes. And then that gives me an opportunity. Now that tends to be more high cost. It's more exclusive and more boutique. I wouldn't put it past clients, because in family law, I know there's a need for this. I'm talking the business mainly because it's more of like a bougie way of like full service. Like, I also want to come out of it with what my thesis, and something else I want to geek out upon down the road is, my theory is that there's post-traumatic legal stress disorder, that we're actually participants, disputants, even judges. We're in a toxic environment for a prolonged time. I mean, I blame part of my burnout on my career, on adrenal fatigue, CNS, nervous system. I mean, we can go down the whole health rabbit hole outside of the woo-woo of the toxicity of the environment, of how high stress over time is bad for you. And I think it's even worse for a disputant. And so why I bring this up is, I think this is going to be something that we're going to need down the line. I mean, qualitative wise.
You know, interesting when you talk about that, because that was something I was considering before. I'd actually written to one of our courts and just said, I wonder how lawyers would feel if they were perpetuating PTSD in a client. Because you're coming in fragile, particularly in family law or domestic violence. And when the lawyer on the other side is aggressive.
Correct.
Would you be liable in negligence? I wondered, just questions I was asking the system.
We don't. It's even worse over here. We have what's called the litigation privilege, which I had the very privileged, distinct honor a year ago of being a third-party witness and coming back into a very high-stakes dispute for former clients, and then like looking, and then the lawyer, one of the lawyers, I'm not even a party to the case, attacking me as if I killed his mother, God forbid. And then I turned to my buddy, and again, this is me 3 years out of it. And I look at him, and he goes, "This is normal." Now he's a Buddhist or Hindu. Yeah. He's an Indian guy. He quotes the Bhagavad Gita, and his name is Indian. So I look at him, and he's so desensitized, because that's a whole other topic too. It's the culture of desensitization outside of even our profession. And he looks at me and he goes, "Don't forget, Hass, this is par for the course." We walk out of there and he goes, "That guy was like American Psycho." And it's like normal for us to be talking about opposing counsel, and I don't even like that word anymore, the attorney on the other side, as, he's a psycho. He's a psychopath. And that's par for the course. You're a great litigator if you're a psychopath. Great motto, like, no.
I mean, this is what I say. Lawyers are trained in left brain. So we've got half a human, and they're dealing with problems devoid of emotion. So it's half a human dealing with half a problem. What is that going to look like?
I love that.
Yeah. So that's what I say. It's just like, we're not trained effectively in human connection. Law is about relationship. There is emotion in relationship. Get it, people. It's not, it is falling apart because we've got, and the lawyers are burnt out because they're charging money for dissatisfaction. It's like, at least if you go to the dentist, you're going to get some pain, but you're going to get some good teeth out of it, Come to a lawyer, you pay them a lot of money, and you still walk away with the pattern, the human pattern that you walked in with, and you've lightened a whole lot, and you're probably more stressed out than ever before. So you've gained nothing, you've lost. That's why you don't like your lawyer. You're thinking, what did you do for me?
Correct.
Yeah, you helped me blame somebody, but actually that's not what I needed to do.
Yeah, and there's a whole school of thought of, I call it adding a conflict on a conflict, because then the lawyer's personalities becomes a pissing match. And it's good for business. I mean, again, I've made my marketing, by word of mouth reputation, was I'm the guy from a consumer side. They're like, he's literally, I had somebody say, "So you're an honest lawyer, you should brand that." And I'm looking at him going, this is freaking sad. And then I've had opposing attorneys even become, some of my opposing attorneys have become my best friends.
Yeah.
Because these are big firms. These aren't woo-woo people. These are people that were like, okay, this guy's not a douchey lawyer. He's not weird. He's not crazy. There's not a screw loose in Oz. This guy actually is doing something that makes my job easier. Yeah. Holy cow, he's not paid to make my job easier. He can protract the litigation or make the dispute harder and milk his own client. Instead of doing that, I was putting myself and other people out of business on purpose. That was my goal.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've got trainings, that you're offering trainings to people. So tell me a little bit about those.
Yeah. So it was all literally organic and inspired. So I was on the board of the Southern California Mediation Association. So I had done for that and other ethnicity bar organizations, the San Diego County Bar. I was a community leader on different boards. And so I'd done a lot of self-care programs. Before mindfulness became a buzzword, I was, pushing meditation, the the medicine, the integrative medicine aspects of it. So did a lot of that. So I'd already developed like a self-care, and I've toyed with it and developed it, and I've done it in mini forms here and there of what does it look like in any form of a legal professional to take care of their energetic hygiene and to do that. So that was something I'd already done. Then I was asked by a colleague at a conference to present on they wanted something novel. So that's when I really put my case studies together, and I called it on how to heal and how to transform through the law. So that's another thing I offer, is if a practitioner wants to sit with me and learn, this is how I've done it. These are ways and methods, and it leads to more fulfillment and more happiness. And then I've also done negotiation courses, because that isn't something we're taught.
Beautiful, because these are things we need to offer people and say that this is all available now. We are doing this, and this is what the communities are wanting. Young lawyers especially are wanting it. The times are changing. The old structures are coming down, so get on board before you're sitting around with nobody around you. Get on board. It's Lawyoracle is the www.lawyoracle.com.
Yeah, so lawyer and Oracle smushed together, basically.
Yeah, smushed together. I'm just trying to see if I can show that up on the screen right now. There you go. Look at me.
You. Oh, that's cool. Right? Virginia.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, I can do that because I'm technically savvy.
Fancy. That's fancy.
And before we head off, do you have any other tips for lawyers that are looking at you and saying, I want to feel better? Because we feel better when we're practicing like this. As lawyers, we're getting less burnout. We are feeling better because we're actually giving ourselves to help. And it is being of service is such a gift to give. You're giving to yourself as well, because, without getting into the metaphysics of it, you're my other self. So this is what we're doing. Have you got any tips for those lawyers that are thinking, me too, I want to get on board?
Yeah, I would say, so we'll tie it up in a nice little bow, because you talked about consciousness. I would say there's so many things I could say. One of the things that pops out is I used to always tell clients that I'm treating you like I would a relative. So I would say an empathy exercise is, for a change, when you're sitting across from a client, or even better yet, opposing attorney, any party, not a partner, not a colleague, because that's easier to empathize and correlate with. What if they were your mother? So if they're female, imagine them as your mother or your sister or your aunt or your grandmother. If they're a man, imagine them as your father, your brother, your grandfather. Develop an empathic connection with them, as comfortable as you are. If you don't know what an empathic connection is, put yourself in their proverbial shoes. That, I promise, at a minimum, will open your field of awareness. It will shift your consciousness, your mindfulness, shall we say, into a position where you can go, what would they want? Not the golden rule. It is that. It's this notion of we don't practice. We're not afforded the opportunities to get in other people's shoes. We don't feel what it's like until we're in the lawsuit as a lawyer, or that we go, oh shit. This is what it's like to be a client in the system. That empathic connection is what I would say. It's not necessarily a tip per se. It's more of an invitation to, again, all of this is an invitation to expand your awareness and take a look at things and expand the field of possibilities. What would they want to experience? How would they want to be treated? What would they want out of this?
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I agree with that, as and having compassion for their position as well, because a lot of people don't know why they're showing up and why they're even in the positions they're in. And it's just like they're on their journey. And I know the word journey, there's some woo-woo words there, but let's get just real about it. This is everyone's having their own experience on this planet. Have a look at it. Things are not what they seem to you. Every perspective is so different, and respect it. Respect it. They're all unique.
Bingo.
Well, it's been beautiful having you here today, Hass. I've really, really enjoyed this. It's been a lively chat, and we could talk for hours. I'm absolutely sure of that. Many, many topics. We are www.lawyersforlove.love. If any lawyers want to get on board, talk about how they've been loving in their practices, I'd love to talk to you. This is new. It's all very new in this space. Particularly our lovers of the essence clause. If you want to learn how to use that, we can talk to you about that as well. I'll put some Hass's website in the description and some of his trainings as well, so you can go over and have a look at what he's offering. And Thank you for all watching. I love this. I love that we're bringing more love just by saying the word love. Okay.
Thank you,
Take
Virginia.
good care. Great
Take
to
care,
see you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.